Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests bring you insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for soul growth. Come journey with us through astrology's energetic cycles and get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sue Minahan, and this is Talk Cosmos. Today is October 27th, 2024. We have just finished the eclipse season. It started back early September, and a few weeks prior to that, actually it started in early September because the lunar eclipse was on the 17th of September, and then October 2nd was the Libra solar eclipse. And these eclipses that happen twice a year in pairs are enduring energies. It led up to it, and now we're still experiencing it, but we get a new opportunity because we have a Scorpio new moon. It doesn't always follow the eclipse season, but because the nodes, and it is Scorpio new moon, and that has a lot about transformation. We might think, oh, more shadow time. Well, yes, it is, but really, this is quite a joyous. There's many indications to pick up your joy straps, whatever they are, your bootstraps, your joy straps, and row the boat to some merrily down the stream with your friends. That cheers my heart. We'll find out what my great team thinks, because we are now ready for archetypal symbols.
Synthesizing the new moon consciousness through archetypal Sabian symbols, numerology, lunar mansions, tarot, and astrology, all together illuminating a new moon vision story. This is your Archetypal Symbols panel.
I'm Sue Minahan, founder of Talk Cosmos since 2018. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, consultant, speaker, writer, vibrational astrology student, Dwarf Planet University graduate, Kepler Astrology Toastmasters Club charter member. I have a fine arts music degree plus a certificate in jazz. I'm an artist, musician, and certified color energy life coach. Especially, I love mythology and esoteric philosophies.
I'm Elizabeth Liz Machette, a professional astrologer, intuitive, numerologist, and tarot reader. I'm a certified sacred healing counselor, providing nurturing, in-depth consultations for individuals and couples. I'm an author, blogger, speaker, and international Reiki master and teacher. I create safe space in which to explore the deeper patterns of your life, to clarify your current circumstances and help you find your best path forward.
And I'm Justin Crockett-Elsie, an archetypal Jyotish astrologer, yoga and meditation teacher, and author. I combine both Western ancient astrology and modern psychological astrology with Eastern Vedic astrology, and I specialize in predictive, electoral, and karmic astrology for individuals and couples. I also do in-depth astrological research into arcane astrological concepts, focusing on the mystical, occult side of astrology.
Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift." And that's why it's called the present. Hello. I think I just blipped out and in. I'm changing my cameras. It didn't work so well. Yes, but we got to try things and risk things, right?
Yeah, don't change the cameras in midstream here.
I know. Well, hello, Justin, and hello, Liz.
Hey,
Hi, Sue.
We had a bit of a break here, not for any good reason, but just because of the calendar, or so it seems. Maybe there's just been a lot of changes. Let's see what 9 degrees Scorpio new moon. And, I came up with Inventive Comradery Actions because the Sabian for the new moon seems to indicate that. So I thought that's a good lead. Let's see if it can work. I think it has a lot that we can build on, but we'll find out. So for folks, Elizabeth Liz Machette, A Light Path, you can reach her at liz@alightpath.com, and Justin Crockett-Elsie at his website with his name, and justin.elsie@gmail.com, and myself at Talk cosmos. So the consciousness of Scorpio, it's water, but it's fixed. Not exactly an iceberg, although it could be. You know, it's hailstorms, something like that. It keeps things refrigerated, but it has purpose. Like, just think of up at the tundra, up in the Mead, up in the northern areas. They keep finding relics, the people. I didn't really want to start off this way, but really, ice has great enduring factors. Yes?
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yep.
So it is ruled by Pluto, which again would be, along with that idea, that's in the modern terms, and Mars, and they're in opposition right now. So we're really experiencing, I think, again, a story of, well, I'm thinking of the old and the new as we evolve into new eras.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So it's power, powerlessness, soul growth, regeneration. And of course, it has everything to do about the cycle of death and rebirth. Sexuality, too, that has a lot to do with rebirth. I'm birthing and rebirth, but it is a very important part of Scorpio and of humanity. So we bring it up. And on the shadow side, it's secrecy, because it is one that doesn't want betrayal. You know, death is a looming reality of that is in the consciousness. So life, wanting life, is preeminent for Scorpio. It's not death, it's how to live. So therefore, they may be secret about certain things, or possibly want to manipulate things in order to put it in their favor. But that's pretty human too. It just depends on if it's deceitful manipulation or if it's just merely manipulating a tool to make it work right. Anyway, we could go on and on. Shall I continue?
Yes.
And this,
Let's get to the next slide. Let's get going here.
all right. The Aurora Borealis of beginning and ending. That's what its symbology is. 9. Liz, do you want to speak?
Okay, so the sun and moon is at 9 degrees. So the number 9 is a completion and an ending. It's the ending of a cycle, so we can renew and begin again with the 1. So we're finishing up things, and it's, you know, preparing to move forward, so that you might need to release some things.
And the trump card, death. Justin?
Yeah, it corresponds to Scorpio. And in this card, it's a beautiful card to show the death and rebirth, because the red and then the earth is brown. So that's kind of, to me, like death. And then the rebirth part of it, or the renewal, is the butterfly and the white birch trees and the white flower.
And compost. Dirt is often compost from the leaves and the humus of life. And so that's very significant too, of that whole idea. This is a lovely card. This is a Robin Wood Tarot deck. And Liz brought these pictures up. I meant to write that down. I forgot. So thank you, Liz. And
you're welcome.
Yeah. The minor arcana cards align the decans of astrology, which is every 10 signs of the 30 degrees of each zodiac. Since there are 12, that's 360 degrees. And it's from 0. So what we're looking at and will be are, if you have a planet, any sign, point, or whatever, if it's between 0 to 9, you know, the last part of 9 degrees, and then subsequent 10 up to 19 or 20 to 29, it's in this section of the decan, and is ruled by, not ruled, but it's influenced. It has significance with this tarot card.
So the first decan is a 5 of Cups. It's Mars and Scorpio, the Lord of loss and pleasure, and it's a very recent loss. So it's like if you maybe lost your job, it's like you're in the strong emotion of that. It's like you haven't had time to react.
And I like how you had mentioned, as we went through these pictures earlier, that there's two cups left, meaning all is not lost.
Right, and it's important to note that this moon is in this decan.
Thank you. I was trying to. Thank you. You answered my desire. Thank you. That's good. So onward. We were asked to purge things, and now we realize that there's more ahead. And I think that's what it's good.
And then the next decan number 2 is the 6 of Cups, Sun in Scorpio, the Lord of Pleasure. And it's, joyful times, innocence, oftentimes our childhood. And, it's like they're protected because they have a yard there to play in, so to speak. So, and there's flowers, and the sunshine. So to me, that's joy and happiness. Anything you want to say, Justin?
No, you got it covered.
Yeah, it's quite safe. It sounds like it's a good time to just relish in that connection, because emotional connection, this is a strong one. And then the 7 of Cups, Venus in Scorpio. Go ahead, Liz.
Yeah, this is decan number 3, the Lord of Illusory Success. Because there's 7 cups there and choices to make, but like I'll just take the cup with the jewels in it. Is it full of jewels, or is it fake jewels on top of some coal? But you kind of don't know what's in that cup. It could look really good and it's not so good, or vice versa.
Yeah, it's quite a contemplative picture. It speaks very well of this card. So in other words, folks, if you have anything from 20 degrees to the very end of Scorpio, it will be in this dimension where you have this opportunity to kind of consider, because we do wonder about our choices and we don't really know. But I think that is the beautiful reality of Scorpio. It shows us awareness. It's not hidden in this sense. Would you agree? Does that make sense?
Justin, do you want to add anything to this card?
No, you got it covered.
Okay.
So the next thing we look at after the tarot is the lunar mansions. And in Jyotish or Vedic astrology, the lunar mansions are called the nakshatras. And they're basically focusing on the stars within the zodiac constellation that where the moon is in. So on the next slide.
You know what I love? I hear I'm interacting at the moment, but I'm just realizing with Vedic astrology or Eastern, the astrology that did you mention that the constellations is what the astrology is fixed for, and it's really a wonderful learning about this, because it's part of our whole heritage with astrology.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So before we talk about this a little bit, I just want to tell people a little bit about how to think about the nakshatra and the pada. So when we look at Western astrology, we look at the decans and how it's broken down by within a zodiac sign, and then you can kind of think about that in relation to the pada, because there's 4 padas or sections or decans, however you want to say it, and within Vedic astrology. And so the first pada is always ruled by fire. The second one is always ruled by earth. And the third one is always ruled by air sign. And of course, with this moon, it's a third pada, so it's an air sign moon. And then, of course, the fourth pada is always ruled by a water sign. And so we call these Navamsa. And so for this particular one, this is in the nakshatra Swati in the third pada, and the Navamsa is Aquarius. And it's called the self-going star. The ruling planet is Rahu, which is the north node, and the ruling deity is Vayu. Vayu. And this is the god of wind. So when we look at the gods, elemental gods, this is the elemental god of wind. He was the purifier. And so we're going to see how some of this relates to the Scorpio moon here. He's a purifier and represents divine breath or messenger of the gods or divine breath of the gods. And the symbol for this, one of the symbols, is a blade of grass blowing in the wind. So what we see here, the basis above is wind that needs to move in different directions, and as below is changing form. So this is about learning information and really the power to disperse or, again, transform. So with this Scorpio New Moon, what we see here is an element of transformation, but it has a wind effect or air effect to it. So we'll see that when we get into the Sabian symbols today.
I appreciate this so much. A blade of grass just needing to blow in the wind. That's
right. It's a very independent nakshatra. So there's a lot of independence or individuality associated with this.
Thank you. And it's a wonderful picture too.
Yeah, that's the god of Vayu.
Yeah. In Western mythology, I'm really choosing to talk about Scorpio itself. And it has a lot to do with about Orion the hunter. And it's his pride. He was a great hunter and very vain and boasted about his great ability to kill any animal. And Artemis is a goddess and the goddess of hunting goddess, and also part of the moon, related to the moon a great deal. And but Zeus and Gaia, they heard this, and Gaia just decided this wasn't going to work, to have some human run around and kill off every animal. And she sent Scorpius, but anyway, the scorpion to sting. It was a huge scorpion, and they had a great battle. And it did kill Orion. And they became mortal enemies, therefore mortal. I mean, he did die, although they're both put up in the sky and at different spots of the heavens. One is never rising at the same time. And Scorpio is always chasing Orion. So what does that mean? It is, again, that transformation. And it is really to do with the fact that to have hubris, not to expound our own self, and not in relationship with the natural world, that we're all part of the one. And also and not to overlook what nature can do, because Mother Nature, as we know, has the last say. And it's beautiful, I think, how all of this with Scorpio falls into this particular moon, because 9 is completion. There's always a new beginning. It's of cycles. The death card is also indicative of that rebirth of new opportunities to recognize how to relive again. And the Nakshatra Swati, this whole idea that there's movement in different directions. It's not just a choice, but it's in your inherent need to, as it said, power to transform and disperse. So thank you. Oh, and these are the constellations in the sky. They're a little bit elaborated, but the stars, for instance, and you can see it has a stinger with 2 stars there. And Antares is the heart. It's a royal star. There's 4 of them. And it's a scorpion's heart. And Mars happens to be called Antares, the rival, because they occult at times. And in fact, Antares is occulting the moon at this period that we're in, since October 2023 until August 2028. Every month around the globe, it's been occulting. And it's a constellation in the summer. Okay, Sabian symbols. We're going to do 4. And this is according to the Eastern chart for the Washington, D.C. It's a strong year for the U.S., so we're using that instead of the Greenwich one. And it happens to be on November 1st, 2024 at 8:46:54, which we could round off to 8:47 a.m. in Washington, D.C. And so the ascendant is 22 degrees Scorpio in 45 minutes, but for Sabians, 22 degrees. And the MC is going to be 4 degrees Virgo, and of course the moon is 9 degrees Scorpio, and we just round that one up to have the Sabian, but we have a story that we're telling. Shall we begin? Go ahead, Liz, with the ascendant.
Okay, the ascendant at 22 degrees Scorpio, and the leading up degree is 21 Scorpio. Obeying his conscience, a soldier resists orders, and the keynote is a readiness to face the results of a refusal to follow the authoritarian pattern of an aggressive society. And the key word is inner freedom.
So this is where we've come from. It's the past, but the present right now at 22 degrees is a hunter shooting wild ducks. So it's that social, what's accepted to release an individual or group, their aggressive instincts, because we're socializing instincts.
And the Scorpio 23 degrees, what we're moving towards here is a rabbit metamorphosis into a nature spirit. And the keynote here is the raising of animal desires to a higher level. And so we have this transubstantiation.
Yeah. And the growth, if we want a story beyond that, would be Scorpio 24. After having heard an inspired individual deliver his Sermon on the Mount, crowds are returning home. And so it's that need to incorporate inspiring experiences and teachings into what we know as everyday living. But it's that challenge of transformation. To me, this really speaks a lot of the Scorpion and the Orion, doesn't it? You know, you've got to work with life. Liz, for the ascendant, we're starting at
Midheaven.
3 degrees to 6 degrees. Oh, midheaven. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Lead on.
So the midheaven of the past is Virgo 3, 2 guardian angels. And the keynote is invisible help and protection in times of crisis. And the keyword is strength within.
You want to do the next one?
Sure. And then where we're presently at in the moment, the image here is black and white girls playing together happily. The keynote here is the overcoming of social cultural prejudices. And so the keyword is brotherhood.
Yeah. As you had said once, Justin, as we all know, some of these are so definitive. And that one, we can understand clearly how that works, you know, with the imagery and the keyword. So the Sabian is Virgo 5, a man becoming aware of nature spirits and normally unseen spiritual agencies, the opening of new levels of consciousness, and the keyword is imagination.
And in the future is Virgo 6, a merry-go-round. And the keynote is the first experience of a dynamic intensity of life process and the possibility of using them to reach characteristic ego satisfaction. And the keyword is an objective approach to the life force.
Now, this is the MC. This is the sun and moon for the entire chart at 9 degrees Scorpio. So the one earlier is 8 degrees Scorpio, a calm lake bathed in moonlight. The keynote is a quiet openness to higher inspiration, because the keyword is quiescence, and it's a need for peace and readiness to accept the illumination from above. And I think it means yes. Go ahead, Liz.
Okay, and then the present is Scorpio 9, a dentist at work. The keynote is overcoming the negative results of social practices and ego cravings. And the key word is inventiveness. Life in society perverts, repairs, destroys, rebuilds, thus compelling humans.
And then what we're moving towards here with this moon is a fellowship supper reunites old comrades, the overtones of human relationships based on a community of work or experiences. And so the keyword here is comradeship, basically that community.
Yeah, it's important. I love how the script goes on to explain that it is these links of our consciousness that by sharing experiences that we build everything. And that's a theme, I think, in a sense, for this whole moon. We'll see what the astrology says. But the future from the Sabian, if it follows through, like Linda Hill actually does in her system, it would be Scorpio 11. A drowning man is being rescued. the deep concern of the social group for the safety of individuals. And it's humanitarianism. It's that basic feeling of how we feel with ourselves and others, that love, that exchange. And I'll have the two of you go through these keywords, if you would, for the ascendant and the MC, and then the sun and moon.
Okay, so the keywords for the ascendant are inner freedom, socialization of instincts, transubstantiation, and challenge to transformation. So I don't know what a roundup would be of all those ones, but anybody else?
Yeah, to me, because we look at the ascendant that's how we're moving forward with this new moon here into our world. It just feels like to me that it's giving us some insight into really that inner freedom, listening to our inner voice, and really making sure that what experiences we're going through with transformation, that we're incorporating those, we're soaking those in. That's what I get out of that.
Yeah, I really agree with that. It feels as though if you have the freedom to be, but then we need to temper it. We need to socialize those instincts. And then can we do it? Can we rise to the occasion? So it is most interesting. Well, for the MC, which is how we would interact with our social groups at large, our not networks, but our, what would we say?
Well, it's actually kind of what we're trying to accomplish. That's that bell curve, what our higher goals are, what we're trying to accomplish right there. So
thank you. So it would be strength within, brotherhood, imagination, and an objective approach to life force.
Go ahead, Liz.
Well, it's like each individual has enough strength, and the brotherhood to me is that's community. We're doing it together because we probably have a lot of the same desires, and that's where the imagination comes up in. And it's like coming up with a new approach to how you live life.
Yeah, I agree. I think I agree with you. It's really realizing that we all have the strength to accomplish what we need to accomplish. And the brotherhood, to me, is kind of represents those spirit guides, right? There's something about the hidden guides there in the Sabian symbols that speaks to. And it's really telling us to be discerning, discriminating, take a really objective approach to what we're dealing with.
And I love both of these because it feeds right into the moon itself for the solar. Why did I put solar eclipse? Darn, sorry, folks. That was from last week. We almost got through this without a hitch. But at any rate, it is a new moon at 9 degrees Scorpio. And so shall we present those and finish it up, and then we'll take a little break.
Go ahead, Liz.
Okay, the keywords are quiescence and inventiveness, comradeship, and humanitarianism. So it's like when you hit a challenge, it's like you have to come up with a new idea of how to resolve that. And again, working together and in a humanitarian way for the good of all, basically.
Beautiful.
And I want to go back to the nakshatras here, because that Swati is really another aspect of that is relationships and contracts and doing things that are to the greater good here. Anybody who's born in Swati is going to be focused on, a lot of times people involved in business and doing contracts, but they always have this spiritual, social concern for others. And we see that in the Sabian symbols here, that how we're changing right now is that there is that support with comradeship and doing this transformation with this new moon is focusing on humanitarianism. And I might note, for those that are born in the 60s, this is going to be very close to their Neptunes in Scorpio in the early 60s. So this is that, Neptune representing the collective there. So that's going to show up for people, or if they have other planets that are in those degrees of Scorpio, that this is kind of affecting that. So
excellent. Powerful times. That's good. And what wonderful code words. Inventive camaraderie and humanism. Okay, we will return, and this is Archetypal Symbols with the Scorpio New Moon with Liz Machette and Justin Crockett-Elsey. We'll return. Stay with us. While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We are currently in the yin period of Scorpio, traditionally ruled by Mars, now ruled by Pluto. By departing a cycle based on comparison between extreme energies finding balance, Scorpio commits a relationship to exchange resources, experiencing power and powerlessness for the purpose of soul growth transformation. As a fixed water sign that is extreme, intense, and secretively deep, Scorpio's passionate nature questions the psychology and mystery concerning life and death.
This is Martha Norwalk every Sunday morning beginning at 9 a.m. Thanks in part to Linda Rasmussen at verticalenergyworldwide.com. We cover the world of animals. This week, November 3rd, it's Shelter Rescue Sanctuary and anything that helps our animal friends Sunday. We'll check in with Now.Cat Rescue, Help Animals India, Beth and Merritt Clifton from animals24-7.org. Plus, we'll find out what's going on at the Ananda Institute for Living Yoga. Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Talk Cosmos brings insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for the soul growth with hour-long programs every Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific on KKNW. Talk Cosmos weekly programs are also available to watch live on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel and Facebook page. While you're there, make sure you click the like and subscribe buttons so you get the full Talk Cosmos experience. Or if you'd rather listen to the show archives with audio only, the entire podcast collection since 2018 is available on most podcast carriers. And to find out about upcoming programs, sign up for the newsletter at talkcosmos.com. So grab your coffee, tea, or kombucha and enjoy the show.
Alternative Talk 1150, local talk for the body, mind, and soul.
There we go. Okay, this is our Archetypal Symbols panel. And again, we have Liz Machette and Justin Crockett-Elsey and myself. And this is a little recap, just letting you know how you can get in touch. Liz has her own YouTube monthly episode channel called Elizabeth Liz Machette. And Liz, go ahead and tell us.
And Justin and I do 3 forecasts a month, the astrology forecast for the month, the full moon forecast, and a Chiron asteroid series. And then I have a show called the Astrology Star Sisters Talk Over Tea. And one of my star sisters does Dwarf Planets series with me, and that's Sue. And then Madam Simon, we usually do planet stationing. And then Decans with Joy Vernon and Fixed Stars with Marcia Bouchard. I look forward to having you join me.
Yeah, and the decans are astrology and and tarot, just fascinating. And Justin can be found at Instagram, where he does 3 different events, and that's Astrological Yogi. And then he also,
and then I also have a YouTube channel that's I have, and I do another podcast with Michael Bartlett, and we have a YouTube podcast called The Relationship Guys, and you could see that on my YouTube channel.
Good. And then Justin happens to also be on several shows, which we've indicated, but on Talk Cosmos, he's on a quarterly Astro Jam with mystery charts, and on this particular Archetypal Symbols with Liz and myself. And then we just had one last week, which is a series on a new channel, a new panel that's going to be about global currents. And it was about swing states. So come in November and we'll find out what's happening then. And it has a lot to do with the United States. But also he's with the Liz's channel too. Yeah. So, okay. And
And then in December, I'm doing a talk for OPA on the Sabian symbols. So if, for those that watch the show and want to know more about diving into the Sabian symbols, and I'm going to be covering about, Mark's book on this and Dane Royar's book on the Sabian symbols. So.
And if you're a member of OPA, Organization for Professional Astrology, you can just attend. Otherwise, it's pretty nominal. So myself, I have videos with Liz. If you go to my program, my channel, you can go to that playlist and see it. And otherwise, this is just a recap of, we have a good vibrational that tells about the entire fall season. It's fascinating. And of course, Pluto's about to leave, and then the swing states. And next week is going to be about the lunar phases for the month. So thank you for subscribing to our conversation today about the 9 degrees and 35, it should be 35 minutes Scorpio New Moon. It's on November 1st, and in Washington, D.C., it's going to be in the morning at 8:47 a.m., and in Greenwich, it's going to be at just after noon, 12:47. We have a couple of out-of-bound planets. That's when it's outside the sun's orbit. And for this particular one, this chart tells you where you see that little line. But a couple are chronic. Ceres has been since April and will be until January 15th. Venus is one of these. It just started. Today's the 27th. It's starting today, and it's going to be until December 3rd. The moon for 10 years goes off and on, but in November it'll be from the 3rd to the 8th and the 17th to the 20th. It's more emotional. What does that mean? It means that we're thinking more purely and energized and off the rails maybe in that particular archetype. So if you have a chart, you might see what it's doing. And Mercury, it's going to be most of November.
So can I just, if we go back to that for a second, I just want to point out that's actually right at the election time for the moon and Mercury. So really, it's really, people really got to be aware of their emotions and their communications and their thinking of that time, because it could, like you said, go way off out of bounds. It could just react in many different ways. I mean, so it's something just to be aware of.
It's
Our emotions
true.
are going to be really out of bounds at that point.
Yeah, it's true. Maybe we can express a better story of our lives, I hope, on the better side of it.
Meditation.
Yeah.
Meditation.
Be gentle with yourself and others.
And meditate. Yeah.
Gentle. That's always good. We have action aspects. Those are the squares, sesquiquadrate. That's when you have a square and a half one. And there's a lot of action involved. And flowing is a trine. Flowing, I've learned through vibrational astrology, has to flow. It's not just that it's flowing. It needs to flow. It's like that river. It doesn't want to stop. It wants to flow. So I think that's a new concept to put in your hat about a trine. And sextiles, they connect things. They're like a syntax. They put things together. Yes, Justin.
And no, I love your description there, and I just want to, and I know Liz, I love how she always talks about the squares as needing to take action. One of the things that a lot of people think when they read a lot of stuff on the web, that trines are a good aspect or sextiles are a good aspect, but actually because they can go either way, that the trines or sextiles could be for either negative or positive. So it's how we work with that vibrational flowing energy.
Yeah. It's very important. I love this. It's a big reason why I wanted to do Talk Cosmos in the very beginning, was to get away from cliches. It's so easy for us to consider that action means it's going to be aggressive against. It's just assertiveness. And that flow, interestingly, there are researched examples that Linda Barry, who I study with, did where people were quite aggressive because they had to have the flow going. So good point.
Like a fire trine in the chart, right?
Well, and if you try to stop the flow, it's like there's a lot of energy and then it just busts forth.
Right.
So the new moon is a seed point. Once again, it's always that opportunity. We have quite a few periods of days afterwards where you can really set your intentions. And that's the clarity we're hoping draws a picture for you and for each one of us to come up with. It is on the 1st of November once again, and in the morning well, we've got the charts for it. So there's a few retrograde planets still, because the outer ones last for a while. It's Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. And this is just a general chart that shows where they are for the Eastern. The sun, though, the sun and moon don't have too many aspects. Liz, do you want to comment?
Well,
Justin?
they have a few. So they have a sextile to Ceres there, and then a trine to Saturn and Nessus, and a sesquiquadrate to Neptune. So, with the trine and the sextile, it's like it wants things to move and flow, but will it? Are you going to resist it? And that sesquiquadrate is, just informing the whole situation, basically.
And conjunct Haumea, it really just wants rebirth. That's what the goddess of Hawaiian goddess is that it's that cycle, once again, like Scorpio in this sense. It relates. So we're in this whole terrain of growth, new growth.
Yeah, I think what jumps out to me here is the trine to Saturn, because Saturn being a malefic, or really calling us to really pay attention to those lessons here. I think there's definitely an easy flow for transformation here, and really paying attention to anything that may be trying to limit us or come up in us, block us, I should say, especially emotionally, because this is a water trine right there.
Yeah, and what's at the root of it? Because Saturn wants to get, according to what I've been learning, it wants to get to the very bare core of something. And interestingly, this is really the sun moon, the major aspect, yes, of the whole dynamics of this moon. Mars is a big player also with this chart. It's because it's going to be retrograding in December. It's slowing down in Cancer. Right now it's 29 degrees Cancer, and it's not going to go in. It's going to retrograde. It's going to enter Leo and then retrograde and stay a lot in Cancer. So it's this ongoing opposition with Pluto. And at this moment, it has a T-square with Juno of relationships and marriage, and what alliances do we have? And it's a rebirth. So we're really focusing on making actions to shift things up a little, quite a lot.
Well, and it's kind of a loose grand cross if you added Hygeia and Eris in the mix too. So then it would be even more strong with those. Because it's our health with Hygeia, and then Eris, basically she wanted equality and fairness.
Yep, all inclusive. So if it's left out, I almost put, yes, good point. Yep.
And, even though they're opposing one another, I definitely, you got Mars as an activator, and Pluto, which is that death and rebirth and structure, that this is, change is going to happen. Whether we want it or not, change is going to happen. And so it's how we, back to the saving symbols, how we integrate these lessons at this particular point of time during this period of change.
True. And in Cancer and Capricorn, it's a lot about processes and just natural endings and beginnings. So we have a choice here. We can renew with
Mars, cardinal signs.
Mars is in a trine with Neptune, so it's like through the change, we probably need to have a new vision.
Beautiful.
Right, and the fact that the other thing too, I jumped out was the is the square there with Mars squaring Eris, right, and Hygeia, right, and so it's almost like, I always look at Eris as sort of the feminine aspect of Mars, right? Because it has that same energy. It's got that arrow, but there could be a lot of discord or major things going with emotions, because here we got a fire and a water sign, which is steam, right? And in the Vedic, it's called Gadanta, when there's these planets that go from a water sign to a fire sign. So it's still that sort of that energy that water fire. It builds steam. So it's really, again, back to how we really pay attention to any discord that comes up emotionally in our own being or within our relationships at this particular point in time.
And there's so much invested. When you think of Pluto in Capricorn, which it has been for 16 years, and as of the 19th, I believe it goes into Aquarius to stay for 20 years. And so we're at the last tail end for the next month. This is the 23rd, and then it goes about the 20th. So it's almost a month where we're going to be experiencing the last dredges of Capricorn. And perhaps we can do the unfinished business and really put the pieces together. I have to be optimistic. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Now there's more action aspects, and that would be the squares and oppositions. And there's also a quincunx in here. That's the green one, which is 150 degrees, which wants really, it's a growth process. You need to grow. And that's where your maybe the belief systems of Jupiter with Ceres, which can be grief. And then from grief, you can find how to nurture yourself. So there's a lot of learning. How do you take that which would have pained us and was our story of grief and loss, and how can we restructure that philosophy, that pattern, the belief pattern, in order to nurture ourselves and others?
Well, if I may say something about that quincunx, I mean, because that's really about an imbalance, I think. That's one of the aspects of that. And it's in one aspect, we got Jupiter and Gemini in the 7th house. So we're talking about communication, and then Ceres in Capricorn in the house of values. So there's this imbalance with communications and our relationships in the collective about people that have different values at this particular point in time. So that's just, I think, indicative of this political season that we're in.
Yeah. Actually, that drills down very clearly just what I appreciate that. It gives more substance to how to think the belief systems. It is in that communication with other cultures and in the structure of things and the values. That's well put.
And with all the oppositions, it's asking for change, but you can see what's opposing you. Where, when it's a square, it's not quite in your vision, but you need to make change. So it's like, again, enforcing that we need to make changes.
Yeah.
And so fascinating. Again, it's each one of these inner planets, they're not inner, but as we see, Mercury is opposite Uranus. They're like the higher octave of it. Venus opposite Jupiter. Venus of your desires and values as you present, and Jupiter of our greater scheme of things and vision. And Mars, action with transformation, and that whole square. It's just loaded.
Yeah, let's go on to the next one.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So we have a grand trine kite with that's Mars is involved in. Mars is trine Neptune and Mercury, and the kite points to Pluto because we have that Mars opposite Pluto. So through the change, there'll be some flow, whether it's how we make the change or after we make the change, and then how things flow together, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I think it's indicative of where we're at in our collective. I mean, you've got Mars, the activator, so it's a lot of fiery emotions right now, and it's trining Mercury and Scorpio and communications here. And so it's going to be a lot of people being really direct right now and really emotional. And then it's with Neptune there, the collective. And then, of course, as you mentioned, it's kiting Pluto there. So it's kind of really, again, I would say we're paying attention to our communications and emotions at this particular period of time.
Yeah, there'll be two more oppositions between Pluto, Mars and Pluto, but they'll be in Aquarius, and I believe they're January, February. They're in 2025, early 2025.
Okay, I think you can go to the next one. There we go.
Yeah, this is a T-square, and it's with Pholus, which is a centaur. And I know, Justin, you have insights that you can share perhaps with this.
Well, again, the Pholus is in Capricorn in our second house of values. And it's again, I think it's really kind of indicative of what's happening with Ceres there and Pluto there. And it really, Capricorn, no matter where you're at in the world, it's talking about sudden changes of our structure, of how we're dealing with it. And it's hitting those nodes. And this is really, again, those nodes and Libra, Aries, which is about self and relationship. I think ultimately we're going through a period in the collective where we're having changes in structure of our relationships. And that's really what it boils down to. And I think it's just something, it's just kind of reflective. Astrology does reflect of what's kind of going on for us. We're just kind of saying, oh, this is why this is happening.
Yeah, and to cut away, like if Pholus is like cutting something because he's the one with the wine for the wedding, or not the wedding, but the party.
Sudden changes.
Sudden changes. So here you have
like sudden events.
And the South Node, which represents what potentially we're familiar with and we want to release what isn't working part of it. And that could be what relationship, our hearths, like what is it that we value of our hearths, that in maybe getting a new vision, to use that word that Liz brought up with Neptune, because it's, there's a conjunction there. We shall see. We're in a new change. Let's go to the connecting. There's lots of connections. That's why I think really this is somewhat the inventive camaraderie actions, that the theme of the Sabian symbols. And then let's go back to the chakra too, to try to see if we can embolden.
Yeah, a lot of the planets are making sextiles to other planets. So even though there's some, a lot of change going on, to me, this is just supporting us to make the changes, and that the outcome will be good.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to enjoy, to connect, to see what builds from that, right? Because a connection is like 1 and 1 makes 2, 2 and 3. Sometimes it makes more than what if it's abstract, not just a literal sense, it produces more. Like, so there's many. I'm not sure which one might stand out the most. I think Jupiter and Chiron are pretty important to me. There.
Well, and I think we'll go to the next slide because the next two are pretty important.
All right.
So this one has more. This one's more trines, and a trine in water and a trine in earth. But one of them's just moved over to be out of sign. But basically, it's an earth and water, 2 trines. So trying to ground us in. But then we're moving to a lot of fire and air energy.
So it's like a Star of David.
Yeah. So it's kind of like the last thing of what's trying to ground us and be easy energy, just so to speak, and to move us to be, get kind of moving in forward directions.
Like Swati.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, but you kind of sat back on your heels. Now it's time to get moving. So the mystical rectangles, I love mystical rectangles. And it seems like lately we've had quite a few of those. And I always think of them as a doorway opening, a gift. Now, what's that gift? Is it, something positive, or it's something that's not so positive? It can be either way.
Kind of like the 7 of Cups there of Scorpio, where you didn't know you could looking at illusory. But the mystic triangle also has this point of Thales, I recognize, which is again a very constructive energy. And here it would be Chiron as a point, and is one of the points, and another point is Neptune. So, and Pluto. So Mars. In fact, most of them are. They're really working in a constructive energy.
Well, and through all the
that's
change that we're
empowering.
going through, that, you know, there'll be some gems at the end.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you, and I look forward to coming back next month and seeing everybody.
Well, spend time with your dear ones, whether it's us powwowing a little bit or whether it's your favorite whoever, because according to the camaraderie, that's going to build us up to get through what you said about the moon and some of these. Use it in our favor, right?
Yes. Bye for now, and next time.
Thank you.
Yep.
Very good. Blessings to everybody. May you breathe and be good in this fall time that we're experiencing. Blessing.
Thank you for joining an insightful conversation on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests awaken consciousness by connecting soul growth patterns with astrology's energetic cycles. Be sure to tune in next Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific Time, to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.